If you love studying history about the U.S. military, there's a great place you can visit that's not too far from home. The Military Memorial Museum right here in Crossville, Tennessee is a great place to spend a morning or an afternoon.
This is the oldest standing building on Main Street in Crossville. It's made of crab orchard stone, which was quarried within a mile of the building. It's the only building made completely of crab orchard stone. It was built in 1885 as the second courthouse in town. There was a fire in here in 1904. A local tried to burn his tax records. That's why the courthouse across the street was built in 1905. In 1906 through 1930, this was the grade school and high school in Crossville. In World War II, it was a USO building, and they had dances and wrestling in this main room here. And in 1945 through 2000, it was various offices. In 2002, it became the Military Memorial Museum. Part of the floor that we're standing on here is 1885 wood, and in the middle of the room is 1905 after the fire.
So how unique is it that you have a military museum now in what used to be the former courthouse?
What it is this used to be an empty building, and the Historical and Genealogical Society used to meet in here. And when that society got dissolved, the local mayor, Brock Hill, was nice enough to talk to my wife, who was the president of the society, and she suggested a military museum to honor our military folks. And he thought it was a good idea and leased the building to us as a museum for 50 years. And we started with about 100 items and are going over 4,000 items in the museum. About 10% is donated from Crossvillians. The rest is from all over the world. We get packages from Australia, Germany, Japan, France, England, all 50 states. Visitors come through here and they'll send us packages every week. So we get 200 to 400 items a year. So we're going over 4,000 items already.
That is really amazing. Well, first, when you first walk in the building, you see the Civil War display. And what are some of the more impressive items on this part of the museum?
Well, the first thing that we see behind us here is a flag flown by General Nathan Bedford Forrest at the Battle of Stones River near Murfreesboro, Tennessee. So it's over 160 years old as an actual Confederate battle flag. We also have lithographs painted by a local artist, Gilbert Gall, from the Fall Creek Falls area. And we're fortunate to have a complete set of his lithographs, which is a very rare set. We also have a replica of the .44 caliber Philadelphia Derringer that shot Abraham Lincoln. We also have a headstone of a gentleman from Alabama. He is buried in Smith Chapel Cemetery in Crossville, Alabama, and his tombstone's in Crossville, Tennessee. We also have a box from the Grassy Cove area that was made by local farmers, made of Tennessee tulip poplar wood that won't rot in the ground. And they'd put valuables in there like planting seeds, plow heads, money, jewelry, anything valuable. The soldiers came through, either Union or Confederate, would steal anything valuable in the house, and it was a way of maintaining their valuables. We have a 12-pound howitzer cannon here that actually fires. It was used by both Union and Confederate forces in the Civil War area.
Once you pass the Civil War part of the museum, what will be the next thing that you see?
Okay. After we get through the Civil War area, we'll be going to World War I. The museum is laid out into Civil War, World War I, World War II, the German prisoner of war camp that was in Crossville during World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and Iran, Iraq.
As far as World War I is concerned, what are some of the more memorable items that you can see when you visit that part?
We have, everyone has heard of Sergeant York, Alvin York. Mm-hmm. He has a museum about 40 miles north of here that is dedicated just to him. Mm-hmm. Crossville has a Medal of Honor recipient in World War I named Milo Limmert, and we honor him by having some of his photos and some of his memorabilia. The building next to us here is named after him, and we have a bypass to town named for Milo Limmert. Also, in World War I, we have a evolution of the German helmet that we have on display. And it is also interesting that in World War I, anytime you see Sergeant York, it shows him carrying a 1903 Springfield rifle. Mm-hmm. Well, that wasn't true in real life. Back in World War I, the Enfield factory in England couldn't keep up with production, so they had American companies make their weapons for them. When York's unit went into battle, they were issued Enfield rifles. Now, if he hadn't received the Medal of Honor, nothing would have been said, but political correctness said you couldn't have an American soldier with an English rifle get the Medal of Honor, so they said Enfield and Springfield sound the same, so we'll show him with a Springfield rifle.
Now, you said World War II is next, right?
Yeah, World War II would be next. Now, in World War II, anyone who has seen the movie Saving Private Ryan may remember the first time you see Matt Damon, Private Ryan, he shoots a German half-track with a bazooka. Well, we have the bazooka that he actually fired in the movie. It still has dirt from the movie on it, so it's a one-of-a-kind item that we have in the museum here. Also, in World War II, has anyone ever heard of the German code machine called the Enigma machine? If you have you seen this recent movie called The Imitation Game? It is a movie a little over a year old, and it's about an English mathematician named Alan Turing, who was clever enough to design the very first computer that was able to decode the German codes and helped us win World War II. Well, when the war was over, because of his actions, he was considered a hero. But it was also learned that he was gay. But back in the 40s, you could have been killed for that. But being a hero, they tried to give him hormone therapy to change him. It caused him to become very depressed. His favorite story during his childhood was Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and he always remembered what the witch did with the apple. So one day he got an apple, dipped it in cyanide, took a bite out of it, and killed himself. Now he's honored today by two young bisexual computer designers named Wozniak and Jobs. They had him as their hero. That's why they started Apple Computer, and the symbol for Apple Computer is an apple with a bite taken out of it. Now, being bisexual, they were clever in the naming of their computers. The very first Apple computer was called the Apple IIe. Their laptop was called the Apple IIc, and the third was the Macintosh. Well, the Apple IIe was an apple to eat. The Apple IIc was an apple to see, and the Macintosh is the apple that Alan Turing poisoned himself with. Now, they were also clever with the coloring of their computers. The very first Apple IIe was a bright white color, and that color was called Snow White. Right after that, they changed the color to almond because that's the flavor of cyanide when you take it.
Interesting. I would have never known that. That's very interesting. Okay, then the next part of the museum?
Well, right after that, we go to the POW camp. Camp Crossville was the oldest POW camp in the United States. We specialized in German officers. We had 1,550 of Rommel's North Africa Corps officers here. The population of Crossville was 810. Since all the young men were off at war, if a local family needed an electrician, carpenter, plumber, handyman, someone to work on the farm, the prisoners would be sent out to town to do the work, and they got paid for the work they did. A lieutenant got $20 a month, a captain got $30, a major got $40, and a colonel got $50 a month. They had access to the Sears catalog and the Post Exchange. They could buy anything they wanted. Cumberland County was a dry county, and the guards couldn't have any alcohol, but each German prisoner was given a bottle of beer a day. They'd save it to the weekend and have a big beer bash on the weekend at the camp. The single girls in town were clever. They formed a society called the Muffs, Maidens Unified for Fun Society. They'd bake cakes and pies and cookies and take them out to the camp and have dances with the guards and the prisoners, and they formed relationships. When the war was over, the prisoners were sent back to Germany by decree. But since they were treated so well here and they didn't have anything left back there, they came back to the States and married the girls they met at the POW camps. That's why we have Oktoberfest and the German beers, and they brought their traditions back with them. Now, several of them were asked, they came back and gave interviews, and we asked why they didn't try to escape. And they said, well, if they were in Tennessee, they wouldn't have known where to go. But if they actually got back to Germany, one of two things would have happened. They'd either been shot as spies or sent back to the front lines. But since they had 4 meals a day here, they had their beer, they had the girls coming over, this was the Hyatt Regency of POW camps. So they decided to ride the war out. The next section is the Korean War area. And we don't have very many items because the Korean War was called the Forgotten War. And so we have a navigation scope from a B-52G Stratofortress, and we have a uniform of a local soldier, a major general, who was a fighter pilot in Korea, and we have his uniform, and a few other small artifacts from Korea. The next area after that is Vietnam, and we have some Vietnam memorabilia. We have a North Vietnamese flag and a South Vietnamese flag. We have a model of the C-47 that was called Puff the Magic Dragon. And anyone who has heard the song usually thinks it's about drugs. Well, it really was not. It was about a C-47 that had a carry cannon inside of it that shot 1,000 rounds a minute. In a 50-yard radius, there was a bullet every 6 inches. It was a very devastating piece of war equipment. And if you listen to the song, it tells you everything about it. And then after that, we go into the present day, Afghanistan and Iraq, and we have some memorabilia there. We have a model of an Abrams tank. We have a simulator for an Abrams tank gunner. We have an Iraqi flag. And various weapons and so forth from the Iraqi area.
As far as just when you look around and see all the history inside this building, it has to be quite impressive to you, I would think, right?
Yes. Well, what it is this is we're here to honor all our military folks. And we're lucky enough that every year, right before fall break, all the 4th grade classes in town, all 12 schools, come through the museum here. And we give them a tour of the museum and give them a flavor of what it took to get America to where we are and how things have changed from the Civil War up through the present.
The Military Memorial Museum in Crossville has been providing so much insight to most of America's wars for the last 14 years. You definitely go back in time as soon as you walk inside the building. If you would like to visit the museum, the address is 20 South Main Street in Crossville. Reporting from Cumberland County, Barry Hyatt, NCTV.